on campus or online at westfieldstate.bncollege.com.
Join us the third Wednesday of every month with Selectman Joe Didi and his take on everything Southwick.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out. Welcome back to that same old place that you laughed about. Well, the names have all changed since you hung around, but those dreams have remained and they've turned around. Who'd have thought they'd lead you? Who'd have thought they'd lead you? Back here where we need you. We got him on the spot. Welcome back. 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 We always could spot a friend. Welcome back. And I smile when I think how it must have been. And I know what a scene you were learning in. Was there something that made you come back again? And what could ever lead you? What could ever lead you? Back here where we need you. Back here where we need you. Yeah, we tease him a lot, cause we got him on the spot. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. I know what a scene you were learning in. Was there something that made you come back again? And what could ever lead you? What could ever lead you? Back here where we need you. Back here where we need you. Yeah, we tease him a lot, cause we got him on the spot. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Yeah, we tease him a lot. Welcome back, cause we got him on the spot. Welcome back, yeah, we tease him a lot, cause we got him on the spot. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back.
And good morning, Westfield. Welcome to Rock on Westfield with your host, Terry Rock. It is Wednesday, June 23rd. I am in the Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy right now, and with me in the control room, the outstanding, the incredible, the often imitated but never duplicated
Somebody's pumping my tires.
producer, Pete Coles.
Good morning,
the man
Harry.
who pushes our buttons. And Stefan, I have to tell you that other than my wife, there's only one person I let push my buttons, and that's Pete Coles.
And that's Pete, yeah.
And what a great job he does pushing
I was
those
confused because
buttons.
I had this queued up in the other deck.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Well, hopefully people notice. By the way, it is Wednesday, June 23rd, and you are watching WCPC Westfield Cable Channel 15 and listening to WSKB 89.5 FM. You will note that my normal opening song of the YMCA.
I know, you supplanted it.
I know. I changed it up this morning, which gave a clue as to who our guest was today, Pete. And
Michael Buster McMahon?
Yeah, right. Well, I was also hoping that you were going to read my program notes and realize that I had changed up the opening song. I said, well, let's see if he really reads my notes when I give them to him.
Of course I do.
He does. He's good like that.
Oh, he is good like that. He is the best. That's why often imitated but never duplicated, the best. But in the studio with me today, and I'm very, very excited to have Stefan Zaporowski, who's the superintendent of the Westfield Public Schools. Oh, my gosh, what a year it has been for you. You actually look, I said, there's two, when you walked into the studio this morning, I said, oh, there's two looks on his face. One is pure exhaustion.
Yeah.
And the other one was pure relief.
Yeah.
It's the year. Is,
You
Very
can have
true.
both.
yes. Yeah. You've got to be exhausted and you've got to have nothing but total relief. And oh my gosh, what an incredible year this was. I just feel for you, your staff, your teachers. But you know what? You got through it magnanimously. It's just incredible, the
Thank
job that everybody did. And, you know, by all rights, from everything that I have read, and, you know, I follow the stories in the paper, I see stuff on Facebook and stuff, really, you know, no complaints. People have been just very complimentary of the leadership, stepping up, the level of concern, the empathy, and the care for their children as your students to ensure that they got the best educational experience they could, given the circumstances that
Right.
you had to work with.
And there's a balance. There was
Right.
a balance you had to reach, and I think by and large our kids were in school though, far more than
The entire country.
I was going to say other districts in the area, but yeah, that too.
Yeah.
And that's where that balance comes in. You know, I mean, we looked at the numbers. You know, Joe Rouse was on. I just saw him leaving.
Right.
He was on with Tina. And, you know, working with Joe was a pleasure in terms of just analyzing numbers and looking at where we were. And, you know, you balance the risk factor, you know, of a pandemic with the learning loss that could happen for students and the lack of socialization, and they needed that piece. So we did the best we could with what we had and the information that we had. And it was truly a team effort. I mean, certainly my central office staff, but also the teachers, the parents, the students, the community in general, school committee, everybody. This was a long year, and Monday night we had our last school committee meeting of the
Okay.
school year, and we were just, you know, the school committee probably met more in the last year during the pandemic than they had in the previous 2 or 3 years combined, because we were meeting almost weekly for a period there.
Oh,
you
is
know?
that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because there were decisions that had to be made,
Right.
and you know, some of them, you know, I always would prefer to have school committee input as well anyway. But I think, you know, it's better to have a group of people making the decision than me just doing it on my own too.
Yeah, no question. And I think that buy-in and that sense of collaboration
Right.
is welcomed by the entire community, to know that everybody is looking at what's best, because everyone has different perspectives and they bring a different thought pattern. And
Sure. I mean, we had people. Kids shouldn't have to wear masks. I got a few of those, you know, and it's like I get it, but the adults are we had staff members. I think we're very fortunate that we did not have in our schools any sort of major outbreak, if you will, or you know. And I think, you know, I want to shout out to even the custodians for what they did in terms of keeping our buildings clean so we
Right.
could remain open. And you know, when we did have a case, they went into overdrive and just, you know, really disinfected and cleaned that area so that we were able to open the next day.
You know, I know there were a couple of times when I heard that, you know, schools were going to be, or a school might be closed or something because of a case, but I really didn't hear much.
No.
You know, my sense was that life went on pretty normal with the students there, and you didn't have a big risk factor going on.
We didn't. You know, and I think sometimes when we had to close schools, it wasn't necessarily just because of the case. It was also because we were having trouble getting substitute teachers for teachers that were out. And I think, you know, we're not the only industry affected
Yeah, we're
by
hearing that
a worker
everywhere
shortage.
right now, right.
But that was an issue we had as well. And I think people's willingness to actually substitute and be it, because we raised the pay to a good amount. But I think people's willingness to be in such a large, crowded area. I mean, let's be honest. If there were, you know, schools are crowded. I mean, there's a lot of people.
right.
You know, we were talking before the show, you know, and I was listening to Tina on the way in, and I was just saying, you know, some people are still wearing their masks when they go to the grocery
Right.
store, this or that. And I still feel like if you're going to a really crowded space,
I have mine.
I have it in my pocket.
Yeah,
and
I bring mine with me as
yeah,
well.
and I think it's just, I don't know, maybe eventually we'll get more comfortable. I mean,
Right.
the numbers are certainly, what did I read, 133 cases or something in the whole state,
Right.
or something in the
Very
last day.
low right now.
The numbers are very low, and we hope this lasts.
Right.
But I also, in the back of my mind, keep looking at that Delta variant, right? So, as
Yeah.
of now, we're in good shape.
Right. Yeah. I think
knocking on wood here.
And listening to Joe Rouse earlier, I think we're not totally out of the woods yet. So let's
Well,
not give
we
up.
will never be out of the woods. So
No.
that's the thing I try to impress with Joe, and he agreed with me. These things don't ever go away.
Right.
They just resurface once in a while.
Right.
And he was saying, remember the swine flu, H1N1?
Yeah.
Now that comes out as a seasonal variety of the flu. That's what he said. So they'll never completely go away once they're out.
Right.
But you learn to live with them, and you learn to say, okay, this has now become, instead of a acute disease, it becomes a chronic, something you live with and mitigate.
Yeah,
That's all.
Good point.
I think people be a little bit more weary during flu season every year for the next couple of years until that wears off and we go back to whatever.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that's
yeah.
just how it is.
I think we're going to have people that wear masks probably indefinitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and that's okay.
Yep.
For us, for summer school this year, and we're following, it's Western Mass News reached out to me yesterday. I don't know if they ran a story or not, but just about what our mask policy is moving forward. And DESE's policy, Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, their policy is that masks are recommended in summer school, but they're not mandated. And, particularly for those that are unvaccinated, and we know that that's kids, right, under 12 for sure. But at the same time, it's not being required. So I think it's tough to enforce. I think, just because, that recommended word, well, that's pretty, it doesn't leave you a lot of teeth.
Right.
And then in the fall, we are back to normal as of right now, right? So
You are back to normal then. So no mask required.
no masks and no distancing, and things go back to whatever normal was. In terms of people attending and, I don't know if we'll ever go back to where we were before the
Right.
pandemic. I think
Right.
there's some positive changes that came out of it too.
I wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit. One question I have, was this year easier because of what you learned at the end of the last school year? When we got hit with this on March 16th, you were basically, you were really blindsided because we had no rule book. We'd
Right.
not been through this. You learned a lot in those couple of months. You had the summer to kind of retool your thinking and adjust to what you were going to do. Did it make operating this year easier because of what you learned over those couple of months? Or
So we closed schools March 13th. So we had March, April, May into June last year. And because we were caught, and it wasn't just us, again, it was everyone, caught so off guard. If we had to do it over, if I could do a redo, we would replay that spring.
oh yeah, but
And-
I remember
do
I felt like
differently.
I Am Legend in here by myself because I would still come in and do the shows every morning. And the custodians weren't even here for the first 6 weeks.
Right.
I was literally like I was the only, hello? Anybody out there?
No. And the answer was no.
The answer was no. Yeah.
So I think it was kind of starting over. We knew that we had to make significant improvements to the remote learning environment. We also knew that we needed more Chromebooks. We needed more equipment. We had to work with teachers, and the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education gave districts 10 additional days for training, which was to work on and investigate and share best practices with remote learning, but also to train teachers and staff on the safety protocols because of COVID. Now, we started with our students at the Tech Academy first, and then gradually brought
That's
everybody
right.
back in.
Right.
And we learned from that, by the way, too. So, I think I don't know if I can say it's easier because the commissioner had us do a back to school plan, and then ours was like 53 pages, and I wrote that. It's not very easy to put that together, and so I would say we knew what the right things to do were, but the hoops that the state made us jump through were not necessarily beneficial. I mean, it is because it's like this. I guarantee you, I can probably count on both hands the amount of people that read my 53-page back to school plan.
Right.
And I'm not confident that DESE was one of them.
Right.
You know, because they received that from every school district across the state. So, you know, those kinds of things became a little tedious. But again, we did learn, again, like I said, that we needed to make some improvements in structure. The thing is in the spring, we didn't bring anybody back. So over the summer, it became all about safety protocols, putting signage up, you know, one-way hallways and, you know, 6 feet stickers all over the floors. And so, you know, and promoting social distancing, make sure people wash hands, making sure our sinks all had hot water, little things like that people don't think about, but or getting hand sanitizing stations all over the place.
Sure.
So, you know, last summer it didn't feel like it was a break at all. And I think, and the school committee met many times over the summer
Right.
too.
Yeah, it was a busy summer for
It really
them.
was.
Right.
So this year we're hoping for a little bit of downtime,
Yeah, a little more normal.
You know, and I think everybody's exhausted. You know, and we see it. You know, we have summer school. We're trying to get some summer school programs out, and we're seeing in some cases we can't fill all the positions, which never happens. And I think people are just like, I need a break.
Now, summer school that's filled by your active teachers from the school year.
That's our first choice.
Yeah.
And in some cases, when we can't fill positions, we post it. You know, we do internal postings first because, you know, we want to give the opportunity to our staff, number one, that may be looking for a little part-time summer work. And the other thing is for our kids then that attend, they certainly, when they recognize a teacher that they've worked with, hopefully that happens, then they feel more comfortable. And, you know, I think that makes a lot of sense. But in this summer, we are having to look in some situations outside.
Is summer school, you know, I hadn't thought about this till you just started talking about it. Do students go to summer school because they're required to or because they choose to, or is it a mix of both?
It's a mix of both. It depends on the program. So, for example, our special education department every year runs an extended year program, and that's to help listen, we know as educators over the summer there is a certain amount of learning loss. There is. It's because you're not in school for this year will be really a full more than 2 months because we got out on the 16th and school doesn't start till August 30th. So kids have a significant break this year.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So some of it is credit recovery. So the extended year program is for special education students. Then we have at the high school, grade 7 through 12, we have credit recovery. And we see an increase of that need this year in particular because not everyone did well in the remote environment. And so when they came in in person, they did okay. But so they need some credit recovery. They need to do a couple weeks to get their grades up and give them credit for certain classes. But then, you know, my next thing when we were talking about summer school is, all right, so the credit recovery and the extended year program are programs we run every year, and they need to happen. But we wanted to think outside the box a little bit too. So this year we have an elementary school program, and it's really, you know, one of the things that I talked to principals about when and asked them for proposals was, you know, our kids need to have fun too. So I don't necessarily want to, you know, give them 4 or 5 hours a day of English and math. And I think our kids need to also have socialization opportunities with other students. And sometimes, you know, what really got shortchanged in some cases over the last year and a half is the special subjects, the musics, the arts, those kinds of things. Even health and PE was limited. So our elementary program is being run out of Munger Hill. There's over 100 students registered. We're up to, and this is July 12th to the 29th. And students can, you know, they're going to get at least half their day is going to be non-academic. And so we also have an emphasis in our programs on project-based learning, but also social emotional. You know, we use PBIS. You've heard us talk about that before, but some social emotional work. You know, I think that's important. Westfield Middle School is running a transition program as well in August, and there's 2 weeks of it. But one of the weeks is for students who were in grade 7 that were remote only. They've never stepped foot into that building.
Oh my gosh.
So think about that. And Westfield Middle School had the highest number of students that were fully remote. So out of any of our schools. So if you think about, again, they're going into 8th grade, never ever having physically attended class inside the school. So their experience is going to be a little bit different, and they're going to get the traditional tour, but then a team building project, those kinds of things where you sneak in math skills and English and ELA. But I think it's important. We didn't want to cram academics down everyone's throat, because I'm a firm believer in the one thing we can't do this year coming up is saying, come on, Harry, you're so far behind, you miss so much, and because that kind of pressure can be detrimental to anyone, but particularly a student who may or may not be at risk already.
Right.
I think you have to be very careful on the message.
Yeah.
And so we have to move forward thinking that everybody can move forward wherever they are at, and we'll get them there. And it's going to take, a few years. We know that. But at the same time, if you just put the pressure and no one likes to be, you're so far behind, you got to catch up. The stress can be, and anxiety that develops can be overwhelming. So our message has to be a good message. Mm-hmm. We're also running a 2-week camp at Boys and Girls Club, Pat Kennedy, and they're doing a band camp, if you will.
Wow.
So that's going to be also happening in August. And the other thing we're working on is some acceleration academies for 1 week. The Department of Elementary and Secondary Education issued a grant, and that is going to be math and ELA focused, but it's only 1 week. And I'm not sure how many students will sign up, but we want to offer it because I know there are some parents who are very interested in that. But again, I hope you're hearing from me, a balance is what's necessary here. Mm-hmm. You can't try to make up for all kinds of and learning loss that may have happened. And we did give diagnostic tests. We use iReady so that we know where the students are when we start the school year, and we'll test them again in the beginning of the year. And that'll help guide our instruction moving forward.
Are the number of students enrolling for summer school larger than what you normally see?
So the credit recovery, I would say, because we have more programs, so it's hard to say.
Okay.
Typically we run the extended year. We did a middle school summer adventure program. Actually, it was grades, elementary, middle school. And that is not happening this year. But we are usually funded by Title I. But Title I is helping fund some of these other programs. Mm-hmm. So still to be determined,
Okay.
Credit recovery, the high school counselors and the middle school counselors reach out to families and try to get them to enroll. That's happened. Mm-hmm. But we're still in the process. And again, we're not starting anything till after the 4th of July. So
good for you. Take a little break.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that there's no charge to students, that they can get involved and take advantage of summer school and whatever programs you have.
That is what we're doing for this year. That's
additional
not going to be the forever model.
Okay.
Typically, for credit recovery, there is a fee.
Oh, there is. Okay.
But the last few years, last year and this year, there isn't. So we're still kind of looking at what we're going to do with that, because in the past, we offered credit recovery for students not just in Westfield, but across Western Massachusetts.
Oh, okay.
So the last 2 years, we've really isolated it to simply Westfield schools, and we're using grant funds to make that happen.
Okay.
The same thing with the transition program at the middle school.
Right.
No fee. We don't want to charge the students at all. I mean, if it were up to me, we'd never charge them.
Right.
But I have to live within our means as well. So
we always understand that for sure.
Yeah.
So I was also curious about the Chromebook program. I mean, you did a phenomenal job ramping that up, and I think almost every student in the district had a Chromebook. Is that correct?
Yes, we're up to over 6,000.
That's amazing.
And again, grant funding helped with that. We used some school choice funds to purchase those. And
Right.
I want to again shout out the Westfield Gas and Electric, and all the donations that Brian Sullivan got for us.
Yeah, we put
I mean,
one.
that was over $62,000 that came our
Is
way.
that right?
That was phenomenal. And G&E gave 50 of that. I want to comment.
Okay.
And they really just a terrific partner.
Right.
Tom Flaherty's been excellent, I know,
Yeah,
and
phenomenal.
Tony Catrino before him, and Dan Howard before him.
Yeah,
Our
they've always been
collaboration
great.
with Westfield Gas and Electric. So, so what we've done now, we're going to be a 1-to-1 district moving forward. So every student will have a Chromebook.
So going forward, this is going to still stay the model.
Right.
It's always going to be a student with a Chromebook.
And we even have a replacement plan. So we're going to probably purchase close to 1,000 every year to replenish, because the average life of a Chromebook, Pete, 3 to 5 years. 5 years is really pushing it, isn't it? Is he there?
He's
Oh.
not listening.
Yes.
Oh,
there
he is.
There he is.
Any computer really 3 to 5 years is the max.
Is the max
But
before.
but when you're working with kids, is it even less than that?
well, that's just technology wise. I'm not talking
Oh,
about
okay.
wear and tear.
okay.
But technology wise, 3 to 5 years is pushing the limit because the cycle of chip improvement and things
Wow.
like that
Wow.
is so great. Yeah.
Wow.
You know, for me, when I started as superintendent, we didn't have one Chromebook in the district.
Wow.
And there was a resistance to Google. I don't know why. It was free, and I love free. So, but also well known. I mean, a lot of people use it. And so when we switched to be a Google district, the Chromebooks made sense. They're also more economical than iPads, for example. And again, living within our means.
Oh, are they really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Big
and-
Brother charges a lot more.
Yeah.
And for the back end services too, because
Absolutely.
if you buy an Apple iPad, you have to go with all Apple services on the back end too. They don't play well with Google.
No, some people are Apple districts. They must have additional funding that I'm unaware of. But, and I want to shout out the Tech Center, too, because every time we make these purchases, they have to prepare them and roll them out. And we have,
They lost their conference room more than once.
Yeah, and we have to keep track of all of these things, too. Is there some damage? Yeah, kids are kids, and that's unfortunate. We do have funds to repair. Some of them can be the keys fall off or something
Right,
like that. But
right.
I think it's a good thing, and I think we have families in Westfield that wouldn't have access to technology otherwise. We're still continuing to provide internet access next year and this year, and for some families with our Khajiit and Verizon hotspots. And
One last
we
question
can.
before we take a break here. Do the kids keep those through their entire school time, or do they turn them in at the end of the school year?
So if they're going to another school, they will turn it in.
Oh, okay.
If they're staying in the same building, they're able to keep them.
Okay.
What's nice about the Chromebooks and why, at one point, and this has been an evolving thing, and I know we have to take a break, but at one point, we were promoting, this is a bit of work in progress. We were promoting, buy your own Chromebook and you can use your own. But for updating and such, and Pete, maybe, the Tech Center, if they have access to all of our Chromebooks, they can push out updates through.
Correct.
Yeah, but they can just do that. I don't know what you call it, but
Right. It's called background updating.
Yeah.
There's background up. They do it for the Windows machines too.
if people bring their own, we can't do that. And so now we're just saying, you know what?
Okay.
Take
Well-
a district Chromebook.
Right.
You know what? In some cases, the answer would be yes, but you have to allow if your machine gets compromised, you have to be willing to say, okay, well, the Tech Center can go in and also erase everything on your machine.
Yeah, people aren't really high on that.
Right. Because
Generally.
some
Right.
some colleges and universities, you can put their email on your phone, but you allow some amount of control on your phone. They can remotely wipe your phone, and it's
Oh, wow.
So do you want to allow that? Do you really want
Right.
that on your personal phone?
Right.
For the past few years, we had a bring your own device at the tech and the high school. We're doing away with that too, where at the time, before we had access to all of these devices, it made sense to have that policy. But once we went one-to-one, we don't need it anymore.
Yeah. Wow. Well, we're going to take a break here. It is Wednesday, June 23rd. You are listening to Rock on Westfield with your host, Terry Rock. In the studio with my guest today is the superintendent of Westfield Public Schools, Stefan Zaporowski. We will be right back. I'm going to take you out with a song. And Stefan, I tried to keep an educational influence here with my music choices today. It's called You Have Made a Difference by Brian Aslan and Eric Dizereau.
This song is for those who inspire us today, who always lend a helping hand to help show us the way. This song is for those who see their students through the tough times in their lives. For that we say thank you. You have made a difference. You have shaped our minds. You have changed the world, one child at a time. You have always been there in everything you do. I hope that you're as proud of me as I silent cries. Who stepped in to wipe the tears from the children's eyes? For those who gave us a safe place to grow, a place for us to call our home. Forever we will know that you have made a difference. You have shaped our minds. You have changed the world, one child at a time. You have always been there in everything you do. I hope that you're as proud of me as I am proud of you. This song is for those who taught us right from wrong, who taught us much more than their craft to help our minds grow strong. This song is for those who guide us through and through, so that we can make a life. For that we say thank you. You have made a difference. You have shaped our minds. You have changed the world, one child at a time. You have always been there in everything you do. I hope that you're as proud of me as I am proud of you. As I look back on my life and to the path within my reach, I hope I can change the life of those that I teach. I can make a difference. All I do is try to see a different world through the children's eyes. And I will always be there in everything I do. I hope that you're as proud of me as I am proud of you. And I will always be there in everything I do. I hope that you're as proud of me as I am proud of you.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Bay State Dental. Comprehensive dentistry at 14 convenient locations in Springfield, Chicopee, Longmeadow, West Springfield, Belchertown, East Longmeadow, Ludlow, Northampton, Greenfield, and Wilbraham, as well as 29 Broad Street in Westfield. Bay State Dental makes it a priority to help you achieve and maintain the healthy smile you deserve. On the web at baystatedental.com. Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
I'm Mark Auerbach. Join me every Friday at 8 a.m. for Arts Beat, where you'll meet interesting actors, directors, designers, and musicians here in Western New England.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 at 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
And welcome back, Westfield. You are listening to Rock on Westfield with your host, Terry Rock. It is Wednesday, June 23rd. You are listening to WSKB 89.5 FM and watching WCPC Cable Channel 15. In the studio with me today is our great superintendent of our Westfield Public Schools, Stefan Zaporowski.
Thank you, Harry.
Having a great conversation here about the past year, but really looking forward to the next year going forward. But before I want to start diving a little bit into the plans for the elementary school that people have been hearing about, but just to finish up a little bit on the summer topic. I know that last year you were providing meals to the kids.
Yes, we were.
No charge. Is that going on this summer?
It is, and it's from June 21st, which was Monday, to right through August 20th, although there is no service this Monday coming up because of the 4th of July holiday. But we have free grab-and-go meals, and there are drive-through sites at Westfield Middle School and Franklin Ave, and that will be open from 11 to 1 Monday through Friday.
Wow.
And then we have a food truck now because there were some grants, and we purchased some. The food service department purchased some vehicles because a lot of what they do is deliver food, and we didn't have the mechanism to do that. So, but the food truck will stop at Stanley Park from 11 to 11:30. They'll be right next at the playground, right next to the pavilion. The Westfield Athenaeum from 11:45 to 12:15, and then the Full Gospel Church at 110 Union Street from 12:30 to 1. And if people want to know what's on the menu, they can go to Facebook, and Westfield Eats is the Facebook page, or you can check it out on schoolsofwestfield.org on our webpage, which we are also in the process of revamping, and it is much more visually pleasing and easier to find things. So even while we are doing other things, we're still updating our web pages and doing all of that. So
no sitting around in the superintendent's office. That's
No.
for sure. That is absolutely amazing. And there's a lot of moving parts to that whole lunch program. So parents and students can find out more detail by going to the public school website. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so they can find all those schedules and times.
Absolutely.
And
And
locations.
the times, and also what's on the menu.
Oh, okay.
So what's for lunch today?
Yeah, that's
And the students attending our summer school programs, most of them will be getting lunch as well.
okay.
At
Last summer, I know the Boys and Girls Club, you had a great collaboration because you were doing the lunches and they were doing the breakfast and the dinners or something.
Well, we were doing breakfast. So we were doing breakfast or lunch, and then putting breakfast in for the next day in the same grab-and-go bag.
Oh, okay.
And they were doing dinner, but they were also doing this. There's no shortage of people taking
Right.
advantage
And
of this.
Are they doing that this year as
They
well?
are.
Oh, so they're continuing with that.
They are.
Good for them. Wow.
I think what's again, I love that the Boys and Girls Club, so many partners. We just want to take care of our
Right.
kids.
I that's part of what I just love about Westfield is the community always has stepped up. In times of need, no matter what it is. I just look at. To your point, it's all about collaboration. No one person, no one entity can do it by themselves.
Nope.
But if you jointly pull all of your resources, you win.
Right.
And I'm listening to what the G&E has done for you, and the Boys and Girls Club, and all these other partners that you have. It's just absolutely amazing.
Staples. I want to shout out Staples in Westfield because they have done 2 or 3 now. I think 3 mass donations of school supplies that we've been able to use, and in some cases, like give to the remote students who aren't in school, right? So that's been critical. And hand sanitizer and tissues, just things
Right.
they've been giving us. And we just had a nice donation too from Mass Mutual of school supplies. So it's just it's a great community.
Yeah, it
really
really
is.
is. That's why my wife and I have chosen to make this our community for life. That's for sure. Let's shift gears for a second. I've been reading in the paper about the Franklin Avenue School proposed renovations and additional new bricks and mortar to go up. What's new and what can we look forward to with that?
So I'm obviously on the school building committee.
Among many.
Whether I had a choice or not, that's debatable. No, it's fine. It's actually.
I kind of feel like I am too because
I think you are too.
Meetings.
You are.
Pete's the most. Pete is the most informed person.
I was just going to say
because
he
he's
knows
at every
everything here.
meeting. He's unbelievable.
But I will tell you that it's been a great experience, and I'd never been through this before, And I think just the amount of input that we've gathered as to what we need for a school here has been terrific. Now, when on the school committee, we were presented with several options as to what kind of a school we would want, and or what also what fits the neighborhood too, right? So, the first we saw multiple plans, and one of the plans had it remaining a first floor building and continuing and renovating portions of the existing building, and just the footprint was rather large. Now, it's not the biggest plot of land, but what we saw too is the building would take up so much of the footprint, there wasn't going to be a lot of room for much else. So the one-story plan also was not economically feasible as well. It was not the cheapest. I want you to know that we have selected the most affordable option, so I'll say that, okay? And it really, we didn't know the numbers, by the way, when we selected the option. We didn't find out until after, and it's just a coincidence that we picked the most affordable option. So then the other extreme was a 3-story building, which does not fit in the neighborhood. I mean, it really doesn't.
Yeah, it would dominate.
Too much, I think. And granted, the armories to the left are, but you still have the homes that are there. So, and we also were able to purchase, and I want to, really recognize the mayor, who really was instrumental in getting these 2 houses purchased, and I think the second closing is June 30th. So that really has made it a nice piece of land where we can.
And that amounted to a stroke of luck, really.
It really did. I mean, the house happened to be for sale.
Somebody noticed a for sale sign driving by.
It was me. I'm like, hey, one of those houses is for sale. So, but I believe the mayor went door to door. I mean, he did. He really was.
Mayor Humison.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Because they had found out through some people that, realtors they know, that one had just sold and the other one was for sale. And
oh, my
he
God. Right next to the property.
I mean, he went to the door. I was just stalking around the property and probably could have gotten arrested for trespassing. But I was just looking to see what we had. And, but, so now we're looking at, and there's going to be traffic studies and everything. And, people are questioning the wisdom of the Route 20. But if you've ever driven down the side streets and Orange Street and all that area, those streets are brutal, very narrow. I think you can hardly get a bus through there right now. So we have to come up with some other idea. But the option we're going with, I believe, is a 2-story building. Okay. And it's pretty. What's nice, just the development of the school, how it's going to be a community school in the downtown area, which is very needed. So you'll see that. So now, when you look at the plans, and they're not finalized yet because the schematic design comes up next, but there's a lot of green space, and we're looking at fields that can be used by multiple organizations. We're also looking at this building to be, the way it's designed is there's like a central area, and the classrooms are off to the side, so that if it's a community use, you're not going into the classrooms, because that should be, and really, and you hate to say this, but you do have to think of the safety piece. And we've met with the Westfield Fire and Police departments too, but those areas can be isolated in the event someone comes in the front door.
Okay, that
shouldn't be there. So. The safety advancements are huge. But so the feasibility study, which was a ton of work, is now complete. And I have a meeting today at 10 o'clock with the MSBA. Not just me, Tammy Teft, who's been phenomenal throughout all of this too, by the way, and Kayla Umbinik. And we are we're gonna make our case as to moving forward to Module 4, which is the schematic design. And I'll answer the question before you ask it, which is, when is the school going to be ready to open?
You read my mind.
Yeah. Right now, the prediction is April in 2024.
Okay.
Now, the other piece, too, I want to say is that had we gone with the model that was sprawled out and required construction in the existing building, we would have had to relocate potentially the Franklin students, which would have been an additional expense, actually.
Oh.
So this school is going to be built, if you're facing Franklin, to the left of Franklin. And the students in Franklin are going to be able to continue to learn there until the new school opens. And the other thing we thought was important, since we're combining 2 schools, because there was a thought process at one point, well, the Franklin kids could start first while you finish it off. The committee thought it was important, and I agree, that the students from Abner and the students from Franklin enter the school brand new at the same time.
Okay.
It's about ownership, and when you look back historically, right, it was the Abner Gibbs School that was originally going to be replaced, and now it's 2 schools. So we think that's better for the kids.
How many kids will come over from Abner?
About 200.
Wow.
So the school is going to be for 395 students.
Okay.
And it's going to combine both schools. Both schools have populations at around 190 right now.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting. And so, what's going to happen to the existing school? So
it'll be torn down once the new school's up.
Really? Okay.
And then that's when the fields and stuff will go in.
Okay, so that's where the fields are coming down. Wow, that's interesting.
This has been, I think every superintendent should go through this at least once, because it's such a learning experience. I mean, developing the educational plan, talking about the different rooms, the different needs of the students and how they're going to be met.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Does it make you rethink how you look at things as a district by going through that process?
Yes. It does.
Because I've been listening to all the stuff, and the visioning process you guys went through to look at the educational plan, which is kind of how they start things. It's amazing they don't start with the brick and mortar. They start with, okay, what do you want to do with it?
Which to me makes a lot of sense, and though you wouldn't necessarily have thought that way before. But what I think has happened is education has changed so much, and a lot of our buildings were not designed based on the educational models that we currently use today. So there has to be some reshifting. So this school has to, the goal is this school is going to last 50 plus years.
Okay.
So you really have to try to project
Where you're going.
Yeah. And so we have, this building has neighborhoods. So there's a first grade neighborhood, a second grade neighborhood, a third and a fourth, and a kindergarten neighborhood. And this school, and we're pretty happy that the MSBA has approved it, 2 preschool classrooms. And so that's something to consider in that we wanted preschool in this building because we know, and it has to do in some cases with the economic situations of people from downtown, but also transportation and things like that and funding. We know that students at Abner, Gibbs, and Franklin have the highest percentage of students who have no preschool and are just going to kindergarten without any preschool. And all the research I've been doing points to the fact is that clearly, and I think it's kind of obvious, but students who have gone to preschool are starting school with an advantage. Students who have not are, and I go back to an earlier comment, we'll never say this, but in effect, are playing catch up.
Right.
So to give all of our students an equal opportunity, my vision is no cost preschool too. I think that would be our goal. I hope the school committee agrees with that goal. But the reality is that if we are, it becomes a have and a have not thing for me.
Right.
If you have the funding, then you can go to preschool. If you don't, then you can't.
Right. Yeah, that's really, really interesting. So this is clearly going to be the most modern school of the entire district.
The last school project we had was Westfield Intermediate. Look at it that way.
Okay.
And that's still in great shape and a great building.
Of the elementary schools, which is the second the newest?
Well, Paper Mill and Munger Hill were built in 91, when I graduated from high school, actually.
90. Oh my gosh, I don't even want to think about that. 91 though. That's okay. That's right, because that's the year that I moved here when I took over the directorship of the YMCA. My wife and I moved here in 91. I do remember when those schools came on board. Now that you mention it, yeah, they were brand new.
And both schools are still in very good shape.
They really are.
Yeah.
Part of the Westfield 350 thing was it gave me an opportunity to get into every school when we were running around with our plays.
Planting trees too.
And planting trees, and the schools are phenomenal. So, what will this school entail? What will it'll have a gymnasium?
Yes.
It'll have its own cafeteria, not a cafe. What do you
not
call
a
them?
cafe
gym or whatever.
Well, we have, like Abner has a cafe gymatorium.
You only have one cafe gymatorium.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think the stage is kind of in the middle, so you can open up for larger performances. I mean, that's the preliminary design.
Okay.
And you see that at Munger and Paper Mill a little bit differently. The stage is in front, then you have the cafeteria, then you have the gym, but the wall moves, and so you can open it up if you need more.
Oh, I see.
For some of our performances.
Right.
But again, I know people are worried about parking and traffic. All that gets studied by both the police department and of course the designers. I mean, they look at all of that and come up with the best plan for traffic.
Where's the front of the school? Will you enter off of Route 20 or still come in off of Franklin?
So still to be determined, but we think that the entrance might be off of Route 20, right? Because and so they're talking about like a separate area for buses and a separate area for parent drop-off, which if you have them combined can really jam things up.
That would make a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
And you have enough room there to do that. That's
because we were able to purchase.
Now they do.
It's funny. I know that school. I've been there a number of times, but I can't envision. I know that it's off of Route 20, but I'm going to go over there actually today when I leave here because I'm going to go down Route 20. I'm going to stop over and just take a look at that because I can't envision the houses and then how much property. I was surprised to hear. I figured that you were keeping the original school and you were just going to renovate that. I didn't realize that
that's actually more expensive.
That was one of the things on the table. Yeah,
wow.
It was on the table. Anytime, and listen, people will renovate, fix, but what I'm learned is that that's not always the cheapest option.
Right.
And there's an A word here that throws me for a loop, and it's not the bad one if people are thinking that. But it does begin with AS, though. Asbestos.
Oh, sure. Right.
And I learned that when I was principal here, and we did the hangar at Hangar 2,
Right.
Hangar 2 at
Even before that, up in the upper campus.
Oh,
where we
yeah,
did
yeah.
all the HVAC.
The HVAC. But when in terms of costs, Pete, I learned that the presence of asbestos can double the cost of a project for abatement. Double.
Oh my gosh.
The hangar, the initial estimates we got with no asbestos were probably 600,000 ish to renovate it and so on. And then we found asbestos and it was over $1 million. I mean, they used asbestos to fill the cracks in the concrete. I mean, back in the day, asbestos was
that was the miracle product.
And cheap.
And cheap. Right.
It's not cheap to get rid of it. I'll tell you that right now.
Right.
And I think that's what's going to happen in Franklin, because it was built in 55, right? So that was, I don't know if it was the heyday of asbestos, but there's certainly plenty of it. But we've had to do remediation. It just seems like wherever we
Right.
put a hammer in a wall, there's asbestos.
When was that school originally built? Do you?
Which one?
Franklin.
55.
That was 55. Wow. Yeah, that was the heyday of that. So, you said something that just triggered a thought with me. You were talking about the fact that this school is going to be here for 50 years. You've got to think forward. What does education look like going forward? So I'm just curious as to the brainstorming, the imagination of where education will go. What kinds of things have you thought about or talked about in trying to plan for where education will go, not just where it is?
So in fact, all of the neighborhoods now have breakout spaces so that students can go and break out and work in little groups. That is, the way education is moved. Listen, we don't accomplish very much individually, right? You have to work in a group. So when they go to solve a problem, that's one of the things that have been incorporated. We also have, by putting, I guess I wish I had the design for you. And this is still all malleable because that's the next part is the schematic design. But there are like in a neighborhood, there's a central space. There are windows, so people can always keep an eye on the students if they go work someplace else.
Can you explain this neighborhood concept?
So if you have 4 classrooms, you have your 4 classrooms in one area of a building, 4 first grade classrooms. You also have the special education classroom there, which can be used for multiple things, not just, I don't know if I want to, I don't know if the fair word is a special education classroom, but it's just another classroom where if there has to be a pullout of a group of students, they could also work, but they're still connected.
Right.
They're still connected to their neighborhood. So it's called a neighborhood. So that's where you're going to be all day, whether you are in this class, that class, or whatever, and your services will be provided if you need additional services, again, like if it's special education or English learner service, will occur in the same neighborhood. You're not going halfway across the building.
Kids of the same age in the same area?
Yes.
Because we're all at the same social, generally.
Similar.
Generally, yeah.
Yeah. But part of it, you're not being picked out or isolated, to go into a closet somewhere with a teacher, which is what happens in some cases because we're out of space. But so it kind of, they keep them together. The teachers can collaborate a lot more. Right now, you think of Abner and Franklin where the teachers might be together. It's still, you have the second grade across the hall. It's just a long hall. There's no breakout spaces to work. There's no, and project-based always been on the forefront. But I think today, the collaboration piece for students and working well with others is a huge skill that we all need. And you didn't always have that. And I don't remember a lot of group work when I was in school.
No, I don't either. It was very, very individualized.
Very. But you need that in today's world because you have to be able to collaborate.
Right. Yeah.
We're excited. I mean, this is our first really in 20 plus years having a new school here in Westfield. So,
that's actually when you say that, it's interesting.
It's interesting.
Right.
There's a few other things going on this summer too.
Yeah. Right.
And I'm pretty excited about that too. We are replacing some exterior doors at Westfield High School. Some of them are 1973 originals, once again, the year I was born. And then
oh my gosh,
we're doing paving at Munger Hill, the driveway. I mean, you've driven through there. It's tough.
Right.
We're doing paving at Westfield High School.
Oh wow.
We're doing paving at the intermediate school, and Southampton Road. That
Wow.
entrance is a little torn up. And those are projects we haven't been able to accomplish in a long time. And it's funding that we were able to save this year from either not using our transportation all the time or really unfilled positions, back to that labor shortage
Right.
that we've had. So there's some funding that we were able to put together. We are replacing the phones and the intercom system at Westfield High School as well. And we are going to get the pool fixed at Westfield High.
Wow, because
So-
that's been down for a while now.
Since this year it was down and the filters stopped working, so
Okay.
we have to get that done. And again, the work, it's that A word again that brought the cost up astronomically.
Yeah.
Asbestos. But we have a great swimming program here in Westfield, and we want to keep
We
that
do.
going.
Right.
The cost is a little scary, but it's worth it for our kids. So looking at replacing phone systems, intercoms across, we're doing a lot of good stuff this year. Replacing the carpet in the library up here. If you've ever been up there, it's pretty ancient. Replacing some carpets at Highland School that have been there since in the 80s. So we're able to get some projects done.
I have to say, I am very impressed. You have been in this crisis mode for 15, 16 months now. But to hear that it isn't always been just about managing the current pandemic situation when it comes to the schools, but still looking forward and saying, yep, you know what? That's going to come to an end. Life still needs to go forward. We still need to provide the best experiences we can for our kids. And what do we need to do from a standpoint of renovation and constant maintenance and upkeep? And you're listing up, so that's a pretty sizable and impressive list.
Well, there's some funding. You'll hear us refer to it as ESSER. It's a grant funding. Now, you can't use it to balance the budget, but you can use it for some projects. So we're also going to be replacing all of the controls and doing some serious HVAC work at the intermediate school and the middle school.
Wow.
And there'll probably be some more of that. Obviously, we're not redoing the HVAC at Abner Gibbs, or
Right.
Franklin, because the
Right.
expectation is they will be closed. But we are trying to do more to bring our other buildings up to par.
Yeah, good for you. Well, we are just about out of
Is
time.
that fastest hour ever right
It is
there?
fastest hour ever.
Wow.
So I want to give you an opportunity. Any last message you'd like to send out to our students and to your teachers and the staff for the summer as you look excitedly to the fall?
I think my first, I want to thank everybody for working with us in a very difficult. It's been a challenging year and a half. So
It has.
and we made it. Thank you. Parents for helping their students, for working with us. But if I had 2 words of advice this summer, and I think that things are now a little bit back to normal, have fun.
Yeah.
You got to have a little fun because life is too short.
Right.
And I think this drive,
Right.
so I know that we are in school and education, and I'm supposed to be promoting that, and I am. But you need to be able to go out and have fun, enjoy nature,
Right.
be with friends, make new friends, and
Right.
and be social. One of the other things we're doing with this ESSER grant is we're adding 3, 4, 5, 6 school adjustment counselors for the next few years to help our students. What we did see when the kids came back is that isolation and that this very unusual circumstance has affected some of our kids, not in a great way. So
Right.
we're here to help, and if there's anything we can do, please don't ever hesitate to reach out to me, our office, or any of the principals, because we're here to help. But really, that goes for teachers and students. Have fun.
And with that, I just want to say, Stefan Zaporowski, superintendent of our Westfield Public Schools, thank you so much for coming in today. And
My pleasure.
to our
Thanks for having
parents,
me.
to our students, to our teachers, staff, and our community in general, I think we can feel good about the state of education here in Westfield. We have a great superintendent. His leadership has really risen to the top through this crisis. And I also want to say thanks as well to all the teachers and staff and the community in general for helping make this the best situation possible for our students. They are our future, and we need to do everything that we can for them. It is Wednesday, June 23rd. You've been listening to Rock on Westfield. I am Harry Rock. I want to thank Pete Coles, our outstanding producer, for keeping us on the air and allowing us the opportunity to bring this show for you. But until we see you again, I hope that you will enjoy your summer and your time. As the superintendent has expressed, it is important to have some fun, and really look forward to a sense of optimism here as the pandemic winds down. It will be with us, so still be wary and be cautious. Wash your hands and bring your mask with you in case you need it, but otherwise really enjoy yourself. We're going to take you out with a song called Education Rocks. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks.